Tonight, a multi-million-dollar development project tipped as a welcome overhaul for Whyalla, and the coronavirus impact continues to trickle through how a local industry is coping.
From our 7 Spencer Golf Studios, your nightly news with Louise Huber begins now.
Good evening, everyone. 400 jobs are set to be created during a $100 million infrastructure redevelopment expected to put Whyalla on the world stage. A proposed 9-storey building will work to increase the local tourism economy at a time when it's needed the most.
As of early next year, this historic and treasured foreshore motel and restaurant will undergo a complete transformation.
This is an international announcement. We are the first in Whyalla of 12 of these resort hotels being built across Australia.
The 9-storey building will include 7 levels of hotel and residential living, a penthouse and a space for rooftop entertainment. The new hotel will also feature multiple restaurants and facilities, as well as Australia's largest lagoon.
It's unique in terms of its location. It's not often one can build a destination resort in the middle of a 100-year-old botanical garden.
It's also set to increase the city's tourism by miles, hoping to attract a new niche of visitors to Whyalla.
I can't take the smile off my face. It's just our family are just so excited, not only for us but for the city of Whyalla.
400 new full-time positions are expected to be on offer during the hotel's construction period, a much-needed job boost for locals with the coronavirus pandemic still looming.
And this will be a showcase project for capitalising on the very things that people love here, and that's the park, the sea.
The project is hoped to be completed by 2022. Sophia Contagonis, 7 Spencer Golf News.
A 30-year-old man has been arrested and charged with a raft of offences after allegedly travelling through the Udlawira border checkpoint on Friday night without stopping. It's alleged the man travelled on the wrong side of the highway with blacked-out number plates. Police found the vehicle abandoned, arresting the man in bushes a short time later. He was a non-essential traveller who returned to South Australia from New South Wales and was meant to be in quarantine. The man was refused bail and appeared in the Port Pirie Magistrates Court today. Broken Hill Police have revealed 3 people have breached self-isolation requirements after returning to the region from Victoria. Officers say 2 of Silver City locals have been fined, with action yet to be determined on the 3rd. All people returning from Victoria must follow the conditions on the permit they are given. Police say the offenders have not displayed any symptoms of coronavirus and none have tested positive. A recent boom of tourists visiting the Spencer Gulf during the school holidays is a welcome change for rural restaurant and business owners. The Minister for Tourism travelling to Port Augusta and Whyalla, speaking with industry members about keeping those numbers up.
It's the site that makes many local businesses feel at ease. Shops, restaurants and cafes filled with visitors touring the region. The Spencer Gulf seeing a recent increase in metropolitan travellers, now taking the opportunity to tour the state and visit the natural wonders that lie in our very own backyard.
Certainly tourism in the last 3 or 4 weeks during the school holidays here, there's been a massive influx of South Australians travelling within South Australia.
Minister Simon Birmingham, one of those visitors, spending the weekend discussing the ongoing effects of coronavirus with Whyalla's Tourism Association, Chamber of Commerce and industry members.
And what I'm hearing in Whyalla is optimism from many businesses who still see potential for growth.
It is very good that he is taking the time to show interest in what's important for our community.
But with this optimism comes concerns that Australia is far from out of the woods with the virus. Business owners worried, unsure how they'll survive if South Australia had to tackle a second wave.
Yes, challenges around filling labour market vacancies, desire to see continued support for particularly the tourism industry and its recovery.
While borders with New South Wales and Victoria are closed for now, Tasmania has recently announced a travel travel bubble with SA after initially rejecting Stephen Marshall's offer for one. In less than a fortnight, Tasmanians will be allowed to come and visit, the Minister stressing the importance of all travellers supporting rural businesses.
What people are really going to see is that they're not just having an amazing experience, but they're potentially also saving a fellow Australian's job or business into the future.
Whyala's giant cuttlefish species also on the agenda as an industry which pulls in a large amount of cash-splashing tourists.
I welcome Minister Birmingham's commitment to speak to the Premier this week in regards to the importance of protecting the cuttlefish here in Whyala.
Around about 1,020 people were here staying, what we know, in accommodation houses in Whyala to dive with the cuttlefish. So that is a massive attraction.
Regional attractions helping to keep regional businesses afloat. Sophia Contagonis, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
The fallout from the government's expenses saga has continued to cause headaches, with members of South Australia's fishing industry fearful years of discussion with the government have been thrown out the window. The interim cabinet met today for the first time, with the Premier, Treasurer and Attorney General taking on the extra portfolios.
It's an ongoing issue which won't go away for the Marshall government. The expenses scandal, which has rocked Parliament House, now causing further frustration and confusion on where it leaves dozens of key projects across the region.
There's been 2 years of work that's been done with these 3 ministers in these different portfolios, and whoever takes on that role will need to make sure that they take in that full breadth of knowledge.
From the GM crop debate to fishing reform and the ongoing saga around cuttlefish, the new Primary Industries Minister will have a lot to catch up on.
Primary industry is really the mainstay of the rural and coastal areas at the moment.
Part of the primary industry sector say they're fearful years of discussion with the government will have to be held again, stalling vital projects.
There's a lot of stuff to finish off and get underway and completed in the next couple of years before we'd lead into the next election.
With markets in Melbourne and Sydney out of action, the state's seafood industry says it's heavily relying on exports overseas. They say they're concerned David Ridgway's Export Recovery Task Force, which was making strides in supporting the export industry through COVID, is now in doubt.
We really need to keep those international dollars flowing into these regional communities when there hasn't been the tourism and the like.
We're in some pretty testing times currently financially, and the opportunities that we have for trade are going to be different to what they were pre-COVID.
Despite the headache, the Premier says the government can now return on focusing on the response to the pandemic.
Well, I think Stephen Marshall's handled that appropriately in accepting the resignations of those ministers.
The new ministerial lineup is set to be announced in the coming days. Nathan Regter, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Stay with us. Still to come in our bulletin tonight, Port Lincoln's Maritime Museum pays homage to its roots, and the RDA puts forward an idea for an exciting new outdoor development. Welcome back. Port Lincoln's Maritime Museum has unveiled a new exhibit aimed at sharing the story and history of one of South Australia's prominent shipbuilders. The McFarlane family helped construct commercial fishing boats, cutters and yachts, with many of them now being preserved in the museum.
For decades, the Port Lincoln Slipway and Boat Shed helped construct and repair dozens of vessels. The McFarlane family set up roots for their business on the West Coast, where they obtained a lease from the City Council, dating back almost a century ago.
It was one of many small slipways that were built all around the coast and built wooden boats. But although we don't know the exact number of boats that he built, he did build quite a considerable number.
Now the history and a handful of McFarlane boats have been preserved as part of a $50,000 extension to the Axel Stenros Museum.
We decided we did need some more display space, and the Lang Foundation very generously came to our aid to fund it.
It will be a new gallery with more exciting information about Port Lincoln and its history.
Originally from Port Adelaide, Jack McFarlane and his father moved to the Eyre Peninsula in 1929, constructing commercial fishing boats, cutters and yachts. Axel Stenros later purchased the site in 1940, where the Maritime Museum now sits, the remnant of its once bustling slipway tucked away behind the building.
It is complete with all the tools and the clothing and all the other bits and pieces that went into the life of the Times from the 1930s through to 1980.
The new exhibit also features a replica of Adelaide Brigantine, the one and all.
It's just an inspiration to come here and see how it's progressing over the years.
A model and exhibit aimed to preserve Port Lincoln's rich naval history for one and all. Nathan Regter, 7 Spencer Golf News.
A 29-year-old truck driver has had a lucky escape after rolling his truck into scrubland near Lincoln Gap. Police and emergency services were called to the Eyre and Lincoln Highway intersection in the early hours of yesterday morning. The truck skidded off the road as it came around the corner, ending up on the side. It was towed from the scene and thankfully no one was injured. A long-standing reservoir outside Broken Hill could be turned into a community and tourist attraction. A revamp of the Umburumburka Reservoir has been suggested by Regional Development Far West in a bid to help the area become more livable.
Hidden amongst the hills of Silverton, what was once a backup for Broken Hill's water supply could now have a new purpose. A short drive from the Silver City, the Umburumburka Reservoir has been operating for almost a century. But now with the Wentworth pipeline up and running, RDA Far West believes it has a second life ahead.
It's an area that you can come and have a dip in the cool water. And it's an area that is open to the general public.
The RDA has released a concept document detailing some ideas on how the area could be used, saying it would cater for the community's needs and provide another attraction for the region's visitors. One big feature, the ability to use the water.
Kayaking, stand-up paddleboards, fishing. Look, just even as an opportunity to go out there and have a barbecue and sit and watch the water with your family. It's a beautiful place, probably one of the nicest views in our entire region.
The size of the area also opens up the possibility of mountain bike and hiking trails. A museum showcasing the old steam pumping engines also floated.
We have a university here at the present stage that we have an option now for the students to go out there and do nature studies, do studies on fish, bird life, also plants.
The next step for the RDA is consultation, working with community groups to develop ideas to make the concept more concrete. Anyone with suggestions is being encouraged to contact the local office.
So what we've got now is really an overarching concept document that talks about the story. We really want to be able to build a really solid plan now that we can go to state and Commonwealth Government, really outline what the plan is.
Patrick Reinke, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Stay with us after the break. A walk for diabetes prevention goes ahead in Port Augusta and Broken Hill football back on the agenda. Welcome back. Dozens of Port Augusta residents have put their best foot forward in the name of diabetes prevention. The local Lions Club hosting its Strides Walk in a bid to educate the community on the simple ways the disease can be stopped in its tracks.
Trying to tackle one of the nation's biggest health problems, one step at a time.
It's so preventable. That's the thing. Exercise and healthy choices with what you eat and can prevent type 2 diabetes.
1.7 million Australians are estimated to be dealing with the disease.
We just want to get the message out there because there wouldn't be many people that haven't got a friend or a family member or somebody that's affected by diabetes.
In its second year, close to 50 participants gathered at the Eastside foreshore.
Quite a bit. My husband has diabetes, but he's going fishing instead today.
Each year just keep turning up and chipping away. We think this time of the year is ideal. It's nice and cool. It's great for getting out a walk.
Warming up before the 5-kilometre stretch toward the back beach.
I'm going to try to teach them on probably preliminary stretches before they get onto the walk. So they stretch the muscles properly, warm their body up so that when they start doing the walking, from grassroots level to all the way up to the health system, meaning keeping healthy, keeping fit, takes the stress away from the health systems. Number one, that's one part of it. Number two, in general well-being, so people can live happy, healthy, safely.
Simple things like a half an hour walk each day and food swaps can help lower your risk of developing diabetes. Laura Milovanovic, 7 Spencer Golf News.
After months of speculation and discussion, AFL Broken Hill officials say a decision will finally be made this week on whether football will be played in 2020. A September fixture has been put forward to the clubs after a shortened season was rejected.
With most of our regional football leagues back on the field, in Broken Hill the game is still sidelined.
When we consider, August is upon us on Saturday, so the clock is ticking.
AFL Broken Hill met with the city's 4 clubs last week. With a 9-round shortened season knocked back, a new option was on the table. 4 rounds of footy in September with 15-minute quarters for both men and women's games.
Running all of those games on a Saturday and then culminating at the end of that month with a final type series, and we've got a sponsor who put up money and we've got a cup that would go along with that for both men and women.
The league wanting a decision made by the end of the week, thereby giving teams 4 weeks across August to get some run in the legs. While the city's 4 sides remain tight-lipped on what they plan to do, over at North, the playing group is expected to meet soon.
They have been asked a couple of weeks ago and there wasn't much interest around playing, but with the other clubs trying to get a team on the park, we said that we'd go back and see if we could as well.
If the Festival of Football does get the green light, it could be the first sporting event held at the revamped Jubilee Oval. Clubs not needing to put up squads for different grades, a men's and women's team is all that's needed.
We'd really like to know by Wednesday or Thursday this week, Friday at the latest, then we can let the clubs know, we can let the general community know if there is to be football in Broken Hill this year.
Patrick Reinke, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Stay with us after the break. We'll have your local footy results from teams who are playing and the weather with Brit. Hello again. Well, footy has well and truly kicked off around parts of the Spencer Golf, and the competition is ramping up with teams hungry to make it to the finals. Laura Milovanovic has your football results from round 4 over the weekend.
Over the weekend, we saw only one nail-biter in Port Lincoln, many other teams taking a thumping in round 4. South Augusta were able to get up over Centrals in what was a slow start for Souths. South only managed to score just 1 point in the first term, seeing Central head into the quarter-time break leading by 13 points. The slow start was soon a thing of the past, with the 4-time premiers storming back in the second. Souths holding on to win by 16 points at the final siren. In the other game over in Port Pirie, West couldn't keep up with Port's heavy goal scoring, losing by 76 points. Over to the northern areas, 6 goals from Daniel Hill wasn't enough to get Crystal Brook over the line against Broughton Mundura. Jean Robinson bagged 9 goals for the winning side, the margin 64. And BMW had an easy game against Southern Flinders. In Port Lincoln, Tasman dominated in their game with Boston. By three-quarter time, they had the game all sewn up, leading by 118. Wagner on song booting 11 majors as Tasman went on to win by 130. And in the closest match over the weekend, a final quarter fight back saw Wayback overcome Marble Range, the Magpies letting the lead slip, going on to fall short by 4 points. Over to Whyalla now, and Waroona Bay could only rustle up 1 goal and 3 behinds, no match for the powerful Westies. Centrals were in control over South for the whole match, winning by 82 points. And Rupina won Sunday's fixture over North, the Roos far too strong in that affair. And that wraps up round 4 of this year's shortened season. Every point now crucial in the lead up to finals. I'll be back tomorrow night with the rest of the sports results from around the region.
Now for a look at your week's weather, here's Brit Aylen.
Thanks, Louise, and good evening. Woodner recorded the region's high this afternoon, reaching 18 degrees, Port Pirie 17. Port Augusta, Whyalla, Port Lincoln, Adelaide and Coffin Bay all recorded tops of 16 today, Broken Hill 15, Kadina and Cleve both 14. Taking a look now at today's satellite images where we can see patchy cloud extending over coastal areas. To our north, skies remained mostly clear and dry thanks to a large high pressure system. Moving on to tomorrow now, starting with the Gulf waters, winds south to southwesterly at 10 to 15 knots. A partly cloudy day forecast for Port Lincoln, looking at a top of 16 degrees. Cleve, fine and 17. Woodner partly cloudy with a high of 19. An overnight low of 1 degree at Whyalla, morning fog, then partly cloudy with a high of 17. Similar conditions for Port Augusta, 18 the top there. Frost and fog at Kadina with a low of -1, but warming up to 15 degrees. And there is a frost warning in place for the mid-north tomorrow morning. Port Pirie with an expected low of -1. Morning frost and fog, then fine and 15. Clare dropping to -2 overnight with a high of 14 degrees. Broken Hill sunny and 16. Taking a look ahead to Wednesday now, mostly sunny across the region with maximum temperatures sitting in the late teens and early 20s. Port Augusta 21, Port Lincoln 17. Mostly sunny again on Thursday, a top of 20 at Woodner, Port Pirie 19. And Friday, you guessed it, another mostly sunny day. And Louise, that's the forecast. Back to you.
Lovely, thank you for that, Britt. And that wraps up your local news for this evening. We'll see you later with updates. Good night.